Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. I'm going to chat with Mr. Benny for a minute. Hello, Benny.
Hey, Pat.
Hey, apologies to all of you out there for the late start. And I promise you in the future, we have a remedy for that. And what's going to happen is sometimes in the world of technology, we do enormous amount of plannings, especially for these shows. And, you know, Benny, for a minute, let's just chat for a minute.
Okay.
You and I, we've talked a little bit about what it takes to run a show, Benny, right?
Yeah, lots.
Now, they've never been in the studio with you.
No,
So
it's a privilege, though. I'll tell you that. It's a privilege.
It's a privilege.
I'll give you a big hug. You give me a big hug.
But if they were to see like what you've got in front of you and then what Jacob has in front of him, and then Olivia is accessing some remote machine in the other room over here, and we're orchestrating a powerful show that it took 3 people to schedule, plan, and bring to the forefront. And one of the things that we're going to be doing differently, and I'll announce it today, but it'll happen probably mid-May, is we're changing our entire video streaming. We're just now implementing all of our upgrades. And so you're going to see some changes. So at the beginning of the shows, somehow we're going to try to work with Benny on this. On the beginning of the shows, we're going to have some really cool videos that play in that 3 minutes or so while we're doing our prep work, while we're getting our guests. And so it's not just going to be like video ads, but these are going to be special messages. They're in the spirit of our launch of AI for the Soul. You're going to start to see now our hosts, right? Hundreds come to the forefront and provide you with things. And we're going to create these little videos, vignettes, so that you can get them. And they'll be dedicated to the type of show. So today, this show, Benny, you've known me 20 years, right? So you've heard me talk about this a little bit here, a little bit there. Mental health. Now, I've shared little bits and pieces about my own life, my mom's suicide, the fact that I've just about buried every female in my family from some form of addiction, just saying. Mental illness, you've heard me talk about it, but who's doing anything about it? So Benny, what we're doing here is we're going from a platform of education information, we're going to that place of podcast doing, because you cannot not do anymore. But we know the burden that y'all are carrying. See, David Essel knows the burden you're carrying. And that's why I'm excited to have him here today, because when he first talked with me, I don't know, a couple months ago, this was an idea. Now it's a thing. And when I say it's a thing, it means that this man took a pain point, serious pain point, the government was doing nothing about, your local governments are doing nothing about, your health institutions are doing the best they can. AA 12-step programs, hallelujah, went online, so that helped a little bit, but that doesn't get to it. We need more people in the field trained to help us to really understand this. So what is he doing? In true form, my friend and colleague, one of my inspirations for 20 years, he's been doing my show. He has said, I'm going to do something. Mental health coach certification. And let me just say the next 3 words. Ready? Benny, you ready for it? Do we need a drum roll? Should I go like that? Is now. available. See, that's the thing. We can be talking about a lot of stuff, and then we just don't have is now available. David is joining me here today. You're going to get a whole dose. We're going to go right to the half. We're not taking a break. Then we'll take a short break. This is what we've got to learn about, because unless you want to go through the pain and agony of watching people you care for go down a pathway in a rabbit hole with no real help on the way, with no understanding about what this is, with no resources, people that are trained to even know how to talk about this, and with more budget cuts than you could even imagine in areas where we need them. David Essel is that person. He has been so instrumental in the human potential movement, and now I must say in the human movement. David, it's great to have you again, my friend. Great to have you here.
Oh, Dr. Pat, thank you. What an amazing introduction. And I'm so glad to be able to share this on your show. You know, we released this first with you.
Yep.
We talked about it first with Dr. Pat. It's wild to know that we've been working together for 20 years too, as well, Dr. Pat. That's just so beautiful. But, you know, what you're saying is what happened. You know, a number of months ago, we're looking around and we're seeing in our private practice as a counselor, we have more people struggling with anxiety and depression and addiction and relationship challenges. Oh my God, off the charts. And we were waiting to see who's going to do what. And of course, there's a lot of red tape in government. There's a lot of red tape in nonprofits. There's a lot of red tape, but there's no red tapes in the world of entrepreneurial spirit.
That's
You're
right.
an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. We don't have it. That's the reason why we're entrepreneurs. We don't need people telling us how to do X, Y, and Z. We'll figure it out on our own. We're creative. We're change makers. We do the stuff that people talk about doing, Pat. We are out there doing the stuff that people talk about. So while we've heard for 3 years now, we need more help with mental health. We need more trained people. We need more programs. And no one has basically done anything. We said enough already. So we created a program that you're going to be a part of that I'm so excited. The Mental Health and Master Life Coach Certification. It's 30 hours long. We do it on a Saturday and a Sunday, 10 hours each day. Then people have 90 days to complete the rest of the course. And within 90 days, Dr. Pat, they can be earning a part-time or a full-time income. They can be lifting spirits, and they can feel their value in this world.
Yeah, I got to tell you something about this. This is why I'm so excited about it, is you're absolutely right about it. You know, there is a reason why organizations like mine haven't gone public. We don't trade stock. We're not going to go down that. We're getting ready to launch an enormous crowdfunding initiative. We're going to call on anyone that I've ever worked with or have ever interviewed. We're going to call on them to help us. Why? Because we're creating something, not just in our platform, but we want to create something that's never been designed before. And what it is it's more than just a wristwatch. It is something that says when you indicate you are feeling down, rather than an affirmation, it may give you a person. See, that doesn't exist right now. But here's what I want to say. This certification, if you are a life coach, this certification for you is essential. David, since we talked, you know, I thought in my life I'd seen a lot. But let me just say why I'm excited to talk to you, because we're not talking about any of this. Since we last came on, I had to do an intervention with one of the women that I work with. Even after rehab, right? Even after multiple, right? Because there's no resources. So you have people that want to live a great life, and they go to places that give him a partial solution, but they don't help them with the underlying issues, and they don't help with how to renew their lives. Yes. And you see, when somebody is lying on a concrete floor and you don't know if they're breathing and you call 911, and the 911 person gives them a phone and says, has them talk, and then they think everything is good, that's when you have to get in your car to say, you missed the boat, buddy.
Amen.
You missed the boat. And then you have to call again. Then you have to get the ambulance. Then you have to. But you know what? Not everybody has this. So we are at epidemic proportions beyond anything that the studies show. Tell us how you feel about that. Because I know you're like me. We do the research, but they're not,
God.
they're like the tip. They're only up there.
Oh, Dr. Pat, what you're just saying is crucial for our audience to hear. The American Psychological Association a number of months ago came out with one of the biggest studies on the effects of the pandemic that they've ever done. 80% of couples who responded to the survey said their marriage has never been in worse shape than it is right now. 79%, I mean, 1 percentage point away from 80% again. 79% of Americans said they do not have the emotional coping skills to deal with the stress, insomnia, depression, anxiety, PTSD, weight gain, relationship challenges, financial challenges, career challenges. They don't know what to do. And then the last statistic from this study, which I think is very underreported, Dr. Pat, they said 40% of Americans reported feeling anxiety or depression that's out of control. In our practice, that's about 70% of our clients are coming in and saying, hey, I need to work with you on this and this and this, but I am so anxious, I'm not sleeping. So, we have all of these statistics. But until we created this program, there's no other mental health certification for coaches out there.
No.
Like we did it so specifically, Pat, that we are going to be giving people, what's the origin of anxiety? Well, if you don't know what the origin is, it's going to be hard for you to come up with a solution for it, right? So there could be multiple origins of anxiety. So when people go through the 30-hour course certification, they're going to be taught the origin and the solutions for all these different conditions. Now, this is important. We are not doctors. We're not prescribing stuff. We're not even prescribing exercises. What we're doing is we're asking the clients to be a part of this situation. When you're a coach, you're asking your client to be a partner. The coach holds the client accountable to do the homework. So if I'm working with someone with anxiety and I say to them, and this is what we'll teach in the course, let's talk about the origin. What do you think the origin of your anxiety is? Well, most people are going to say, I don't know, or it's genetics, my mom was anxious or whatever. So then we teach the coaches how to get to that bottom line. And then we say, okay, this is what I want you to do. Here's an assignment. I want you to go online and Google the top 10 answers that people are searching to diminish their anxiety today. So let's say that's an exercise we train our coaches to give. Their client comes in the next week with the top 10. Then the coach goes through with each one of them and says, now, which is the one that's best for you? And the coach will help them figure out, of all the different options for anxiety, Pat, maybe 9 of the 10 wouldn't work for this one client.
Yep.
So that's what we do. Origin, solution, origin, solution. Our coaches are going to be so well trained. And the last thing I'll say about the certification, Pat, because, in 1996, we've been doing certifications for master life coaches since 1990, right?
I know you have. Come on. I mean, I'm not kidding. I know you have.
Forever. And this is the one where we said, let's really make it specific to what the world needs right now.
You're like me. So this is why I love talking to you, David. I mean, you started this. Can I just take a step back for a minute so people know who David Essel is for a minute? Just a minute. If you go to his site, David Essel, David Essel, and we'll give you other websites, but I want you to go there first, because what you're going to find is you're going to find somebody that is not just sitting there preaching at you. You heard me on Susan's show the other day talk about an experience that I had in the human potential movement. That's not David. If you go there, I want you to take a look at a couple of things. Look at the certification workbook, but look at the book. Look at helping Americans heal. Okay, so this is not a man that just decides, I'm going to pop up and I'm going to get on some bandwagon. He and I are so embedded in our own personal, thank you, David. I love that. I'm sure Olivia's got that, but we are embedded in helping all of you because we know what loss is. You know, I'm not kidding when I tell you I was born in this world with a mom that drank and was given prescription drugs by Dr. Jacoby because she was a little feisty. Where do you think I got that from? Because that's what they did back then, right, David, to
Yeah.
women? And
Yeah,
that
that's right.
hasn't changed, by the way. So let's just be real clear.
Yeah.
We just got a little smarter on how to do it. But I was born into this world with a very loving mom who was using barbiturates and drinking alcohol. I cried for 4 years because I was different. They needed to rock me. I couldn't stand stimulation. What does this sound like to you, right?
Yes.
And yet I had a loving mom who was in so much pain. And by the time I was 6, one attempted suicide, then she was really sick. And do you know how I know it, David? Do you know why I'm so passionate? Do you know why I love what you're doing and love you? Here's why. My stepmom taught me how to show up. Otherwise, I'd not be able to have a conversation with you. But my dad never threw away my mom's letters from Bellevue.
Wow.
I was given those when my dad died, and I read them. And I understood what that was about. Now, a lot of people don't have that. So I want you to really share with us in your heart, why is this touching you so personally? Because, you know, David, you don't do what you do or what I do because some fancy dancy person has said we should do it.
Yeah.
What's driving your heart, David?
You know, it's a great question, Pat, because this certification, these 3 manuals are basically my life. You know, I attempted suicide in 1990 and I failed. I have the biggest heart in the world for people in that position, for families that I counsel when they've lost, you know, I mean, it just touches me so deeply. I battled with anxiety and depression for 30 years, and I didn't even know it, Pat. And that was the underlying cause of my addictions. I didn't know how to deal with anxiety and depression. So I went to alcohol and cocaine for 30 years. So I have a really strong affiliation for these topics we're talking about, you know, insomnia, PTSD, anxiety, depression. You know, I have never experienced weight gain, but that's a huge issue that Americans and the world is going through right now. I mean, the last I saw was 86% of Americans are obese or overweight.
Yep.
You know, like it's just amazing. But I have the ultimate of compassion. The challenges that I face, you know, I draw so many clients that are facing these same challenges of addiction and mental health challenges and procrastination and a lack of drive and all those kind of things. And, you know, I sit there and I just go, oh my God, I'm so blessed to be in the presence of this person because I can allow them to share with me what they may not share with other people, which is why this certification is so important. They walk out feeling lighter. We give them exercises to help them feel even lighter and to progress along. And it's so close to my heart, Pat, that I want to be involved in this field even deeper and more deeply than I ever have in the past. You know, I've talked about my mom on your show and, you know, how I lost her about 1 year and 3 months ago or something like that. But, you know, she was someone that taught me how to be compassionate for people that are suffering, how to be compassionate for people that are struggling. And I didn't realize until I got into the work years ago of how much of an influence she had on getting me into this field. I mean, she loved everyone, and she especially loved the marginalized, the homeless, the people that were, you know, neglected. She had a huge heart for those people. So I think being raised in the family I was raised was a great advantage to me, even though I wasn't a good kid. Years later, I look back and see what a blessing it was. But then, Pat, you know, all of these struggles that I've gone through have just opened up my heart so immensely to say that, hey, this is the reason I'm on this earth. And every struggle had a purpose. Now, a lot of people may not agree with me on that, but I look at my depression, my anxiety, my suicide attempt. I look at them all as perfectly divinely planned to give me the knowledge and compassion for others, Pat. I couldn't have this knowledge and compassion for someone battling deep anxiety if I hadn't gone through it myself. I may have compassion for them, but not anywhere near at the level I do.
I shared this the other day, and it is the story that I share now about what happened to me 6 months after signing on for this show. Look, okay, I did not plan this. This was not, let me say this. I did not plan this to be this way. I did plan my life to have this energy. But if you'd have told me when I'm in the middle of a doctoral program, studying to be a very high paid consultant, that was my end game, right? I had consulting firms waiting for me to graduate. They love my research. They want, you're the change agent. You're a re-engineering expert. Nobody's doing what you're doing. You're talking about psychological contracts. Come work for us. Here's 250 grand. I graduated school with honors, won awards for the research. I studied broken promises for 10 years because of what you're talking about. And I want to say this, my mentor said to me before she passed away, Pat, you're going to learn this lesson. And you just said it. You cannot take a person to a place you haven't gone yourself. The reason you won awards for this and the reason you're so passionate is because you've lived it. When I started the show, I wanted to talk about wellness, but I'd never been sick, David. I'd never been physically sick.
Oh my gosh.
6 months after signing on for 3 months on digital radio in 2003, my friends wanted to have me committed. They thought, you paid 13 grand for 13 weeks of radio on the internet. You're crazy. And then I started with KKNW, this network.
Yep.
I'm telling you, by this point, this is where your relationship starts to really get shaken up because you're not earning money. You've turned down all those $250,000 jobs, plus bonuses, plus this, plus that. We're going to send you to France, all of that crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I signed on for this. But I, in my heart, knew what I wanted to do, but I doubted myself. April 1st of 2004, my body stopped working, literally. Inflammation. On the 31st of March, I'm giving a workshop, right? This is, tell me about the cosmic joke, because this is about what mental health is about. I'm giving a workshop, Live Your Greatest Dream. By the end of the day, I couldn't walk. See, that's why you and I are here talking. We're not talking heads, we're walking heads.
Amen.
And that's what's exciting. Before we go to break, tell me a little bit about your invitation for people to get educated through your certification program. And I mean educated because you got to be educated.
Yeah.
Invite people to do this and tell them how to do it. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about the anatomy of mental health certification and master life coaching by David Essel. What's your invitation right now to people?
You know, I invite the whole audience to join us, Pat. It is going to be the most mind-blowing weekend when we do these certifications, because people are going to walk away radically changed. The people that come that are going to be coaches for others are going to be so shocked at what they learn and how their life will improve before they even start coaching. I mean, this is one of the most exciting things. You know, at the end of the first 10-hour day, people are going to be flipping out. We've seen it happen since 1996. They come up and go, oh my God, I had no idea. Every hour there was something about me I'm learning. You know, it's so great. So we welcome you. All you have to do is go to our website, talkdavid.com, and send us an email that you're with Dr. Pat, and you automatically get $1,000 off of the certification. I mean, right away, we welcome you. And we say, because I have so much love for Dr. Pat, and obviously, as a follower of Dr. Pat, you do too, let us reward you. So you immediately get $1,000 off. It's 10 hours on a Saturday. It's 10 hours on a Sunday. The one in Zoom that you can take from anywhere in the country is in July. The one in Fort Myers, Florida, that we're doing live is June 25th and 26th. So the first one you can attend is the one in Fort Myers, Florida, live event. We're so psyched. We're going to have a room full of people going through the certification with you. You can join us then and save your $1,000, or you can join us in July with the Zoom certification and sit in your living room and take it, whatever is best for you. But this is the last thing I want to say about it. The crucialness of this certification cannot be spoken about enough. There are not enough counselors. There's not enough therapists. There's not enough nurses. There's not enough first responders in the world to deal with what's going on right now. And that's where you're going to have a chance to be a leader in the field. You're going to be way ahead of the curve. You know, I say this, and this is not to knock counselors and therapists and everything else. but
No,
there's going to be information that the average counselor and therapist does not know.
we're
There's
not
very
allowed to share it either, by the way. So let's just be clear about that. There's something that is in our credentials, especially if we're clinical, that we are actually not allowed to talk about too. And that's so important to mention because there's so much not said, right? Right, David?
Oh, yeah, there's a ton not said. And the cool thing about being a coach is that you have the liberty. You have you don't have the handcuffs on. You have the liberty to do everything that counselors do. You have the liberty to sit and to listen. You have the liberty, which we will teach you how to ask great questions, how to give great assignments. But the other thing is, Pat, the coaches are going to learn things like about amino acid supplementation for brain chemistry that counselors are never taught. We're going to teach the use of essential oil for brain chemistry that counselors are never taught.
So it's holistic.
Because it's all holistic, right? We're going to be teaching you multiple forms of contemplation, meditation that most counselors are never taught. So, and I'm not putting counselors down. I am one, for God's sake. But when I came out of the training program and realized what I was not taught, Pat, that I have now learned over 43 years, that's the advantage of this mental health certification, that you're going to get information you won't find anywhere else because we've been so blessed with the experiences we've had over all these years. And now it's put together in a complete program.
And you're going to be able to add at the end of, so at the end of your name, like blah, 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 David Essel, you're going to be able to add this certification. When we come back, Benny, we're going to talk about the levels you will learn. I love this. 3 levels. We're going to talk about this. And I'm just saying that if there was ever a need to have more people educated and certified in this field, the numbers don't show it. If you were to hear the stories that David and I, that we could tell right now, I won't because it's confidential. Even with my degree, I don't have all the tools. That's why I'm not a practicing clinical psychologist. I need to bring in herbs. I need to bring in, hello, there's a reason we're called Reverend. Let's take a short break. You didn't know that, did you? I know you are.
I love it.
I know, right? It's even to say Reverend Dr. Pat. Okay, we're going to take it. Benny's like, what? Let's take a short break. When we come back, the anatomy of a phenomenal certification program that you will be able to help people and maybe, like I did a couple weeks ago, maybe save a life. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with David Essel. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. So great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. David Essel, my very special guest today. And as I said, we're going to give you very specific places to go to really look for yourself at the details we're about to talk about. We are really talking about now the anatomy, as I like to call it, the anatomy of a forward-looking mental health certification. We're looking at the anatomy of mental health for the 21st century and beyond, and master life coaching. So this is 2 things. This is both mental health and master life coaching from, the master life coach. And so one of the things I want to say, we're going to break it down for you because it's more than just a few bullet points. You're going to hear from David today and from me exactly what this is involved in. And let me tell you why, David, this is important. Because both of us have had experiences, but also I've gone to school for it as well. So have you. And here's the point. We know what's available to people. We also know what's needed that's not available. And what if all of the master life coaches that are in the world had this addendum? What if? I mean, hello, right? What do you think?
Oh, totally. And I love the fact that you said we'll break it up because it is 2 completely different certifications in one. The mental health part of it is everything we've been talking about. What's the origin and the solution for addiction and anxiety and depression and PTSD and relationship challenges, financial challenges? So, we look at all of those kind of things from a mental point of view. But then when you're a master life coach, you are trained to deal with anything, Dr. Pat. I mean, and that's what we love here. So it's a specific certification for mental health challenges, but those people that go through the certification with us will also be able and have the tools necessary to deal with anything that someone comes in with. So it's kind of this beautiful thing. And let me go through some stages that people may not be familiar with in the world of life coaching and mental health coaching. I mentioned this earlier, but the number one thing that the coach has to do is be able to learn to listen. And we talk about this like it's a given. It's not a given. There's a lot of people that really don't know how to listen, that when a client takes a break, they start talking. And so we teach people that a lot of times when a person takes a break, they need the break to reformulate, to see if they're safe enough to say what they want to say next. And so if you interject, you can break their train of thought and throw them off course. And you might even stifle them from giving some really valuable, deep information that they were about to say. So, we teach that part of it about the skill of listening. Then we teach the skill of giving the assignments, and the assignments are hugely important. If you go to a traditional counselor, what normally happens is you walk in, 55 minutes later, you walk out and they say, great job, we'll see you next week. The odds of changing when you're just told that all you're going to do is vent or do talk therapy is very tiny. So our coaches are going to learn how to give great assignments. As a matter of fact, just before we did this interview, Pat, I had a brand new couple that came in, and there's some struggles within the family itself. So I said to them, oh, just before you guys leave, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes of assignments. And they looked up and they said, assignments? And I said, yeah. I go, listen, this is the only way it's going to change. So I gave them a bunch of different, they have a book that they're going to be reading several chapters from. They have a journaling they're going to be doing in a specific way that we teach it. So that's what our coaches are going to learn. Like when your client walks out of a session or walks away from their Zoom call or whatever it is that you're training them with, is that they're going to know specifically what's due for next week. So for next week, you're going to read these chapters. You're going to do this writing. You're going to watch these videos. You're going to do this journaling. I mean, it's very organized, very focused and specific. And then the other thing that we teach, which is crucially important, is how to ask questions to get answers. Now, a lot of times people ask questions and they'll ask a question and they won't get an answer that they're hoping to get. They'll ask another question. It's not because their client doesn't know how to answer questions. The coach has not been trained how to ask questions correctly. As a matter of fact, when we think about open-ended questions, an open-ended question is a question that cannot be answered with yes or no. Now, that might sound pretty simple, but you would not believe how dynamic a session becomes when the coach is asking all open-ended questions. So the client can't escape with yes, no, maybe, yes, no. They can't. They have to interact. They have to interact with open-ended questions. So, these are some of the tools that as you come into our program and take the certification, that's going to separate your work from the work of millions of other really well-meaning coaches that just haven't had this type of depth of training when it comes to helping people heal.
Yeah, and I want to go over this really quickly with people because one of the things I love about this is when we're talking about training, I just want to break this down so people understand. First of all, there's a revamp of your original. When did I first meet David Essel, but not really meet you? Maybe in '97.
Okay.
Because around 96, that was I think it was your first program. Is that correct?
Yeah,
somewhere around there. Yeah, because
Yep.
I was in school and I remember Sidonia Cahill was my mentor. I don't know how she knew you, but it doesn't matter. And so you've taken this body of knowledge that has been so successful in helping so many people, right?
Yep.
But now what you've done, you've had to do this, I would imagine. You had to rework it. And what I love about what you did is, first of all, you're looking at dual diagnosis. Anybody that doesn't know what that means, we're going to tell you. Remember I said anatomy, that's what we're doing now. Professional coaching, dual diagnosis, the power of conscious and subconscious mind, which you generally only get in hypnosis certification,
Right.
by the way, right?
That's right.
True? Okay.
That's true.
And right. And then you're bringing in emotional regulation, which I love, and the stepping stone. So here we have a platform, body, mind, spirit, emotion, right?
Yeah.
And the level rise, fall of all of that one at a time in all of them, because see, we're living in a world now that by the very nature of a single tweet, I had somebody just come completely apart about one tweet, a complete tweet bring you down. But you're going to get at, if I get this correctly in what I read, you're going to get at the origins.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where it's really exciting. Pat, and you already know all this, Dr. Pat, but when you find the origin of any dysfunction in life, you now know what the solution needs to be. When you find the origin, the brain locks in and goes, oh, no wonder why I overeat every night at 8 o'clock. My mom and dad did from 0 to 18. So when you find the origin, you go, oh, that makes sense, that I was trying to get away from anxiety, which is why I was addicted to Klonopin. Oh my gosh, the reason why I keep going from one bad relationship into another is because I never had an emotional connection with my father. So I'm attracted to emotionally unavailable men. So we teach the origin so that our clients can logically go, I could have had a V8, like that awakening. And what's so exciting is that when you see your client go, oh my Lord, that's why I procrastinate. It's such a freeing feeling for the coach. It makes the coach feel great. And now next we go, yes, that's the reason that you drink too much, or that you eat too much, or you procrastinate, or you pick poor partners or whatever. Now let's get to solution. There's 1,000 solutions out there for everything, but let's find the solution that's right for you.
Yeah. And what we're talking about here is when you understand it. And I shared earlier a little story, and I want to get back to it for a minute, because my stepmom was genius. I mean, this is the woman that taught me what perseverance was. Now, why did she learn that? When you have your first child at 12 and your second one at 13, and then you're like maybe 21 and you marry my dad, who is like 30 years older, and you bring this deep South family together with this New York edge family, there's a few things you learn. But she was so wise in so many ways, and she understood the loss in my life. Now, she wouldn't let my dad destroy those letters from my birth mom. Mm-hmm. She pulled them aside. She kept them for like 25 years.
Wow.
When my dad passed, that was her gift to me. And when I read them, I understood what you just said, the origins. Why did I cry for 4 years? Why was I different? Why was it that the only thing that would stop me from full-blown anxiety was a rocking horse, right?
Yeah.
When we understand these, as painful as some of that information is, David, isn't that the pathway to freedom, though? But I will say this, it has to be with trained, structured, educated environment.
And it is the pathway to freedom. That is the most beautiful words you could use. And that's what we want our clients to feel. We want the coaches going through the certification to feel free. We want them to feel that, oh my gosh, I have some sense of control here. I don't have to just give up because that's the way that I was trained, or that's the way that I was taught, or whatever. I can live differently. I don't have to follow the pattern of my family or society or whatever it might be. That's freedom. But so many of us are handcuffed and we're chained to old belief systems that don't work. There's a word we always use called mass consciousness, and mass consciousness is advertising on television, social media, whatever it might be. We need that purse, we need that car, we need that house, we need that pool, even if it's going to put us in immense debt. That's mass consciousness. Well, that also works for, I need to go out and be social and drink. And I need to do this, with my buddies and my pals. Like, mass consciousness can make us do some really stupid, crazy things. It takes away our independence. It makes us codependent on being liked by society, keeping up with the Joneses, all those kind of things, right? And so in our certification, it's so different. It's so unique. Listen, Pat, I just got an email the other day from an attorney in Los Angeles who took our certification program. He just finished it about 60 days ago. And he was looking to get out. He had been doing some grief work, but he was really tired of the law work. And he has found his niche in society now. He loves doing grief work, which is part of the mental health certification, right? There's so many things we could talk about, Pat. But, you know, and
well, you even cover the body too. I want to make sure everybody knows you're not leaving out talking about gut health and a whole bunch of other things. That's why this is so much more than when people hear this is what happens when you combine wellness and well-being in one program.
There you go, Pat. This is your thesis, by the way. This is
see, that's why you're the guy that does something with it. I'm the girl that writes
it. Right. I love it. But you know, you mentioned the gut, and I'm so glad you did, because a lot of people don't know that 70% of serotonin in the body is in the intestinal system. Now, what does serotonin do? Serotonin gets us that feeling of completeness. Serotonin is, great day. Oh, beautiful sunset. That's serotonin, the feeling of completeness, right? And yet a lot of people, especially during the last 3 years, our diets are horrendous. We haven't been paying attention to what we eat and how frequently and all that. And that creates an imbalance of bacteria in the intestines, which destroys the connection with serotonin to the brain. So what we do is we teach people how to cleanse with really simple over-the-counter products. It's not anything complicated. How to gradually leave those foods out of their diet that could be interfering with serotonin. Some people do it cold turkey right away, Pat.
Yep.
Others, we're going to teach them how to do it. We call it titrating. Titrate the foods that aren't good out of your body, slowly move them out and bring in good foods. And then the supplements necessary for really incredible intestinal health that will boost the serotonin in your brain, that helps with your mood. So the body and the mind are totally connected, as you and I know, Pat, and we make sure that people leaving the certification know it as well.
And, you know, part of this is, can I get back to something that I can't talk about enough? And that is, in our history that we could record to date, the only other incident, I forget who said this not too long ago, the only other incident that they could recollect that resembled the effects of the pandemic. Now, what did he mean? He meant the immediate instantaneous loss of lives by something they didn't understand, the immediate lack of any way to adjust at a global level and give people the tools they needed emotionally and mentally. And I said to him, what was that? What were you talking about? There was only another time in this. And I said, was it the AIDS epidemic? And he said, you know what, Pat, I didn't include that, but you're right. He said, no, it was the Holocaust.
Yeah.
He said, when people experienced that, there was no relief. And he said, you know, Pat, there was another time in the United States history. And I said, okay, like I'm thinking he said, no, it was the economic downturn in 07, 8, and 9 that was not only the repeal of the psychological contract of work, but it was the repeal of the psychological contract of finances with our money. It was such a level of betrayal. We don't have any group of people that are well equipped to handle the pain that families, that workplaces, that individuals are suffering from right now on the impact of something that they can't even define. They can't even define why they're not getting out of bed. You see what I'm saying here?
Absolutely. And this pandemic has created an immense drop in self-esteem and self-confidence. When we talk about the word grief, Pat, you mentioned a couple of different things. Most people think about, losing a family member, which is obviously the most obvious form of grief. But there's grief when you lose your job, you lose your home, you lose your pet, you lose your relationship, you lose, what your identity. When you're used to going in, let's say you're a social person, you're used to going into work and socializing, and now you're working out of your home, out of your kitchen table, and you're not socializing. That destroys your identity as an outgoing person. that destroys your social connections. It destroys stress relief. One of the options of stress release, of course, is socialization, right? So when people have been ripped, when these sources of socialization and managing life have been ripped apart for 3 years, we don't, who has the tools unless you work in the field like you and I do? And even you and I can be affected. You know, I said something the other day about the war in Russia and Ukraine, and I don't watch the news, as you well know. I don't know anything that's going on there. All I do is pray every day hard that a solution is found and that people are not dying. That's all I do is pray. I just pray, pray, and pray. But, you know, someone said something to me the other day about, well, you don't watch the news, so this doesn't affect you. I go, oh, no, you cannot stop suffering. Just because I don't have a television on, that doesn't mean the suffering, the energy of suffering isn't reaching me from Russia. It's reaching me. It's reaching everyone. But we have to have the tools necessary, the emotional regulation tool that you mentioned earlier, the emotional coping technique, which the certification teaches. And once you have these tools and you start to put them in action, it doesn't mean that's going to heal the war with Russia and Ukraine. But what it'll do is start to minimize your negative emotional reaction to things out of your control, which is a huge technique that people can use every day in traffic, for God's sake, not just with the war.
Yeah, but you're right about this. I mean, I'm not glued to the news, but I am aware. We interviewed, Mark and I interviewed the youngest member of the parliament in Ukraine, and we stay in touch with him. Dr. Sharon Martin, who is the Straight Talking Shaman, she's a medical doctor, is going to be doing a special stone blessing. So we can be involved in this. You know, you can be aware of what's going on in the world. You know, greatest concern for a lot of people right now is concern over Elon Musk buying Twitter. Right. And what's going to happen with that? That has put a ton of people in anxiety. But see, there are things we don't have control over, right? But you do have control over whether you keep your Twitter account if you don't like what goes on there.
Yes. Yes. You have control over not responding to people on social media that have an opinion different than yours.
Yeah.
To keep your own peace.
You have to do that. You know, David, look, thank you so much for today. We talked about a lot, and I know we have a few minutes left. And I just would love for you to cover a few things that maybe we didn't talk about, but just let people know how they can learn more about the certification. And thank you for giving people 2 options. They could either participate in person in June, or in July, they'll be able to take the online event. Please give them a little bit more information about how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, Pat, I forgot to mention is if someone wants to take the certification one-on-one with me, that's another option. So we have 3 options. You can do one-on-one with me, June 25th and 26th in Fort Myers, Florida, or July 24th and 25th on Zoom. So there's 3 different options.
Wow.
You know, for people that really want to make a difference in this world, maybe you want to leave a legacy behind of you touching hearts, you lifting spirits, you lifting souls. There's not, I've been doing this for 43 years. I can't think of a better way to spend my day than to be sitting helping people uncover the solutions to their challenges. So if that feels good to you, if it feels good to help other people, this certification is perfect for you. If you're in between careers and you're going, you know, I really didn't like this and I was laid off, or I decided to quit that job and I really don't know what to do, this is another great option. As I mentioned earlier, within 90 days, you could be coaching people if you go through the course the way we recommend. In 90 days, you could be working with clients, making money that you're not making right now. And then the other thing, Pat, is we look at all of the natural people that would fall into the world of coaching, the first responders, the nurses, the police, the fire, all those type of people. They're great. They would be great as certified mental health coaches, because not only could they do it on the side if they wanted to earn extra income, but they could use it on the job, you know. And then the last group is the retirees. There's more people retiring earlier these years without a purpose, without an identity. And if you're in a retiree that's saying, I really have the time and I really can help people, why not help people and earn some lunch money or earn vacation money on the side or whatever you want to do with it? So we welcome you to talkdavid.com. The Mental Health and Master Life Coach certification is the only one of its kind. Our very own loving Dr. Pat is going to be part of one of the certifications. And if you just join us and mention that you heard this with Dr. Pat's show, we automatically give you $1,000 off the certification. So
Yeah,
let's
I want
do
to
it.
just mention one other thing too. For those of you out there, I know you don't do things alone. And if you bring somebody with you, I think, David, you also have a bonus for those people that also bring people.
That's right.
This is like, I've never seen so many ways for people to be able to get this done and get things in return for it. And so this is in the spirit of what we've always done, which is really pay it forward to really get what the world needs. David, thank you so much for everything today.
Oh, Dr. Pat, I love you. I love being with you. And I'm so excited that we're partners with this project together.
Yeah, we're going to talk again before June, though, because we need to really go through this, because there are things I didn't even talk about, the success you're having with fire departments, et cetera. David Essel, I'm Dr. Pat, everybody. Please, davidessel.com. Check it out. It's everything there. And if you don't really find it, just email him. He's got his email right there. Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back.